Good morning. This is VirtualPBX admin training. We're just a tad early, so we're going to give a few minutes for people to join us if they're so inclined. The training lasts about an hour and a half, give or take. We do record these trainings, so you can leave and come back as necessary. Now, the advantage of recording is you can then share that link with other staff members who need to be system admins on your Dash account. You'll see in the description, there are 4 links there for some other and related videos. Business SMS registration webinar. This was put on by our services team, basically answering some questions about how to get your numbers registered for use with texting. ACDQ's Pro demo. Basically, it's hard for me to show you the ACDQ's Pro demo here, so just easier to go to the other link. The advanced reporting demo, also hard to show you here on my streaming software, so that demo will show you more. And then lastly, the introduction to Zapier webinar, actually put on with our marketing team, basically showing you how to make use of webhooks and linking your Dash account to a Zapier account. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask any questions about a feature as I go through it. And without further ado, well, let's go ahead and get into it. On your screen here, you're seeing our Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can get there also from the virtualpbx.com webpage. There's a blue bar going out towards the top of the web pages, and there'll be a login link there that will take you to this page. I do recommend bookmarking this page just to make it easier for you to find later if you need to. To get logged in, we need 3 pieces of information. The first is your email address, which you would have used when you signed up with us, or your admin would have used to create your user. Your password, which was hopefully emailed to you. And lastly, the account name, which is typically your company name, business name, or your own name if you just signed up for yourself. If for some reason your password isn't working or you forgot it, because that happens to all of us, over here to the bottom right, just above the sign-in bar, there is a forgot your info link. You just want to click on that, flips the box around, and we still need your email address. All right. Now, one thing I should mention about the email address for the login page, you want to make sure it's in all lowercase letters. Some browsers will sometimes capitalize the first character of your email address. You want to correct that. So we need your email address, and then in these last 2 boxes, we only need one of the 2 filled out, right? So either your account name, right, company name, or a phone number that's on the account. And this is one of your customer-facing phone numbers. And then you click on Reset Password down here towards the bottom. That's going to send you an email, right? It's basically the email address right here, right? We send an email. In the body of that email, there'll be a link that lets you log in directly to your user page. That's where you can change your own password, right? Once you try to navigate away from that, the system will log you back out, right? After you update your password, the system will also log you back out, bring you back here. So again, you just fill out your email address, your password, and your account name. Oops. Gives you an opportunity to click on Remember Me if you're so inclined, and then click on Sign In. Now, I'm using a test account, and I've logged into this several times. So by default, it's taking me here to my dashboard page. If it's your first time logging in to your Dash account, it's actually going to take you to your user account page where you would change your password, for example. Now, you can always get there by clicking on your name up towards the top right-hand corner of the page. So I'll click up here. And here I'm on my user account page. So this is where, for instance, I would change my own password. And then click on Save Changes. Yeah, I'm not able to update my own email address. Another system admin would have to do that. Now, as a system admin, you also can get to the account level settings over here on the left. So you can change things like the system time or time zone, as well as the display language for the web pages. Also, that first time logging in, the dash wizard will pop up on a few pages, including this one here. Once you're done here, click on the close box towards the top right, and that will take you to your dashboard. Now, the dash wizard, little pop-ups will come up here on the dashboard page. Over here on the left, when you click on groups or on users, those first times you click those two locations, the dash wizard will also come up there. All right, so speaking of over here on the left, right, these are the major features of Dash, or of the dashboard of Dash. So we'll be touching on all of these in at least some, or most of these in some detail. Along the top here, right, so you can click on your name at any time, get back to that user account page to change your own password. For most of you, to the right of your name, you'll have a D&D toggle for Do Not Disturb. I don't have it here on my user because my user is part of the call center, the ACD queues. So the call center queues and the Do Not Disturb feature do not work well together. They can cause problems. So once my user was assigned to be a member of the queues, the D&D toggle was removed from my bar up here at the top. All right, to the right of my name, I have a little phone icon here. And this is because I have a web phone added to my user, right? So web phone is a kind of VoIP device, right? It's voice over internet protocol, basically. VoIP just means using your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? The web phone specifically uses Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls, right? It's not supported on the mobile versions of those browsers, but only on the desktop versions. Now, again, this little icon only shows up after you've added that device to your user. And we'll get into that under users. Next up, we have a little graduation cap. This opens up a new tab and takes you to our support pages. So you can go to the various guides we have for these various features. Most of them have screenshots, and some of them have videos about the particular feature as well. Little chat bubble here. This opens up a chat window so you can speak or type to our support team so they can help you with a particular feature that you might be working on. And we do have staff available 24/7 for our support team. Right? Other teams like our billing or services or even our sales team, they are not available 24/7. Little 3 horizontal line icon here, the menu icon, sometimes referred to as the hamburger icon. This gets you to other Dash features. Now, some of these features are plan specific, and so they're available on some plans and not others. And so I'll try to highlight those, and we'll be going over those as well. Now, majority of our training time here is going to be on the dashboard because that's the meat of what most people are dealing with. The little arrow icon here to the right, that's the logout icon. Here in the middle, I have total users. I have 23 of them, right? Little people icons. These are people who make and receive calls on my account. Right? Most of our plans are based on a per user basis, meaning as you add users, your bill will increase. Then I have my total devices of 42 and a little pie chart here and a breakdown. First up is soft phone. Means a software application that acts like a phone, right? And it's going to use your internet connection to make and receive calls. So any kind of soft phone counts as a VoIP device. This will include the VirtualPBX soft phone or any third-party soft phones, at least in terms of this total here of 19. Next up, I have cell phones. Right? So on Dash, you can add a cell phone or landline number as a device on your user, right? So we can send calls to your cell phone number. Just one thing to keep in mind, when Dash sends a call to a cell phone or a landline, that becomes an endpoint. You're not going to be able to transfer that call to another staff member. Next up, web phone. Again, that Chrome or Firefox-based phone. So another VoIP device. And then here we have SIP phone. SIP is for like session interface protocol, I believe. That's a kind of VoIP device, right? So VoIP, general term, covers any device that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. SIP is a subtype, right? It's a kind of VoIP device. So when you're shopping, right, you want to make sure it's a SIP compliant or SIP compatible phone. And for a list of compatible phones, you can find that on our website, as well as when you go to devices. If you add SIP phone, you'll see manufacturers, and we'll go over that. Those are the ones that are fully supported. Down here, I have unregistered devices, and I have 2 of them. And that just means I have turned 2 devices off. Right? So under our devices page, you can disable a device for temporary purposes instead of deleting it. Next, I have total numbers. I have 33 phone numbers on this account. Your account includes some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. If you just signed up for it, you probably want to check the pricing page to see how many phone numbers are included and what the overage is per number per month for that. So more than likely, for most plans, I am getting an overage charge for this total number of phone numbers. I have 2 breakdowns. The first is assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number means you're using it, right? Someone can dial that number and expect to speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, or be sending a fax. Right? Spare number on your account, so it counts towards your allotment. You're just simply not using it right now. Like you had a promotion that just ended, and you're like, okay, we're taking this number out of service for right now because we don't want to get calls and tell people, oh, no, that promotion's over. Right? Then they start yelling and screaming. Or let's say you're about to open up a new location, right? Different city, different area code. You already grabbed the number for that area, for that location. So that way you can start prepping your marketing materials, but you don't have it in service yet because there's no one at that location to answer calls yet. Then we have this breakdown here of US DID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888 all the way down to 833 currently. US DID, that just means a US local phone number, right? So if you have a number in San Jose, California, US DID, just like if you had one in Elmira, New York. You can have international phone numbers on your account. If you're interested in acquiring one, you need to email our porting team, and that's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's possible, and then what, if any, additional requirements are necessary. Those requirements vary from country to country. Some don't care. They say, okay, grab a number. Others, they want some documentation, right? Proof of incorporation or a utility bill, something of that nature. Next up, conference bridges. I have 8. This means I have enabled conferencing on 8 of my users, meaning they can host or moderate a conference. Over here towards the top right, I have this main number block, which I have 5 phone numbers here. So you can have multiple main numbers, right? Now, these numbers all behave in the same fashion. They're all going to the same location on your system. For instance, I can have all these numbers go to my virtual receptionist. So that way I have a greeting play, and then they have menu options to choose from. And it doesn't matter which number of these that they call, they're going to that same set of menu options and that same greeting. The conference number, I currently have 1. You can have multiple if you want. They're all going to the same set of conference rooms. Basically, everyone dials that number to join a conference, whether they're your staff members, your vendors, or your clients. They call that number. They'll be prompted to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. The fax box number, this is your main fax number, right? Your inbound fax number. You can only have the one main fax box number, but you can assign users to have their own individual fax boxes if you want to. You can also set up your main fax to enable outbound faxing for your staff via email. Next up, we have the company directory. There are 2 links here. One is CSV, the other is softphone. So the CSV downloads a CSV file to use in your favorite spreadsheet program. Basically, it's going to list all your staff members with their names, their extension numbers, and their primary devices. The softphone link here, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop softphone application. So if you're using our softphone on Windows or Mac PC, you can download this file, upload it to your VirtualPBX softphone on your computer. This will allow you to see the status of the other VirtualPBX softphones on your account. Right? So if this is the only device all your staff is using, you have a way to see presence, right? See what if they're on a call or not, right? Right, basically green icon, hey, they're there to take a call. Red icon, they're on a call or not available. Now, if you have staff members using multiple devices, right, you're only going to see the status of the soft phone. You're not going to see if they're using like the Yealing phone or what have you. VirtualPBX Store, this link opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a VoIP phone or a router, etc. And then we have the account realm. Every account has its own account realm. You use this for a couple different things. First and foremost, it's used for programming a third-party soft phone. Right? So if you're using someone else's soft phone application, or you're using a physical VoIP phone, but you weren't able to auto-provision it, which we'll get into shortly, this would be one of the 3 pieces of information that the system gives you to get that device or soft application to work. The other thing it's used for is for outbound faxing. So if you set up your fax box to allow for outbound faxing, you send a fax via your email. So you don't actually have to log into your Dash account. You just create an email like you normally do. In the to field, instead of putting, say, like your boss's email address, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, right? Little @ symbol, and then you paste in your account realm. Then you just need to attach a PDF or a TIFF file. The system does not look at the subject line. It doesn't look at the body of the email, right? It's basically looking at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. Only one attachment per email. So you want to make sure you don't have any like signature files attached or multiple PDFs, right? You just one document per email. Right, up here along this blue bar, right, it says Dashboard Sandbox Training. I have caller ID. If you click on caller ID, this opens up. And this first pull down, which unfortunately my streaming software doesn't like, you can choose any of your main numbers, right? So these 5 phone numbers over here in that main number box, I can choose any of those. This becomes your default number for, say, your VoIP phones when they make an outbound call, among other things. Next up, you have the company caller ID name. This is an optional feature. In the box here to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters. That includes spaces or special characters. Now, this is information that we also transmit as part of your outbound caller ID. There are some caveats with that, which I'll get to shortly. Then you have the company emergency information, or E911. System wants you to put in a North American address. This is so that by default, this becomes the address that gets transmitted whenever a VoIP phone user picks up their phone and dials 911. This is the default address that gets transmitted to emergency services. Now, every phone number on your account, you can assign a different E911 address to, which allows you to then assign those different phone numbers to each of your devices, or each of your VoIP devices, right? So that way you can have the correct address for your staff members depending on their location. And it's set up so it's only for E911. So they can make all the calls they want, and it's going to have whatever caller ID or location associated with it that you want. But whenever they dial 911, the proper address information is transmitted. Once you've filled this all out, you click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, if you entered information here in the company caller ID name field, this gets transmitted to the other carriers who support this feature. It takes them approximately 3 business days to update their servers. Now, some things to understand. When you make an outbound call, right? So you pick up your VoIP phone, you make a call out, your call can route through several different carriers before it reaches its destination. If any one of those carriers does not support the CNAME feature, the CNAME information does not reach your destination. Right? It's like a water going through a pipe and then a section of pipe got dropped out, right? The water just filled out a link, doesn't make it to the end. Likewise, when we reach that final carrier, right? Whoever you're calling's carrier, they have final say about what shows up on the phones on their network. So they can see our caller ID information, like the phone number and the name. They can pass that through. Right? That's what we would ideally want. Or they can say, oh, we'll send the number through, but we're going to look up our own database for what we have for that number and put that instead, which might be great, might not be great. And then their other option is we're only sending the number through. Right? We're not sending any name information through. That last option is typically what most of your cell phone carriers are doing. All right, so when you're making calls to cell phones, odds are your company name information won't come through. Unless the person you're calling happens to pay their cell phone service an additional monthly fee to have that come through, right? So my cell phone carrier, they want to charge me $10 a month to have the CNAM show up for every call that comes to me. I decided not to do that. Hold on, just. All right. Next up, we have hold music here. So Dash allows you to play hold music. Now, this hold music is defined as after a call has reached one of your staff members and they have pressed hold on their VoIP phone, that's when this media file will play. Now, this pull down here lets you select any media files you already have on the account, or you can click upload. You can upload your own file. You can upload a .wav or .mp3 file. You want to make sure it's under 1 megabyte in size, and to help you with that, you'd want to record in mono. A 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes. So to give you an example, but you would click the browse button here to find the file on your device. Then you click the up arrow icon, and then you, after it finishes uploading, you would click on Save Changes. And that means all of your staff members, by default, when they press hold on their VoIP phone, that file will play. Now, hours goes under part of main number, and I don't want to jump back and forth to main number. So for right now, I'm going to jump down over here on the left to users. So your users tab shows you all the users on your account. Now, people with the little blue suit icon here, these are your system admins, right? So they can do all the stuff we're talking about. People with the gray person icon, these are your standard users. They have very limited access. Basically, they can check their voicemails, see their own call history, update their call forwarding or their conference settings, and that's it. If you assign them to queues, they can also access the queue page. So as I said, very limited access, whereas system admins can do everything here. Now, up here at the top is where you would add a new user, and you fill out the form. All right. First name, last name, you just need to put some sort of text here. The email address used for login, that needs to be unique for each user, right? So you can't reuse an email address for 5 different people. And this is because this is how the system communicates with your staff, right? With the users, right? The email address used for login is what the system uses to send voicemail notifications or password reset emails, right? That's the email address it uses. Password, you would then create a password for that staff member, right? So if they need to log into the dashboard, and then the main or default extension. Now, the system will give you a suggestion based on whatever extension you started off with, right? So if you just signed up with us, you'd actually want to come to the user page and assign an extension number to you, and then it would start giving you recommendations for the next extension number. I generally recommend using 4-digit extensions just for maximum versatility, but you can type in anything here you want, right? So if I wanted to say, hey, this person's extension 55, that's perfectly valid. First thing here that's checked is to create the voicemail box for the user, right? So basically what this does is once you click on create user, the system will automatically create a voicemail box for this user at the same time. That voicemail box, is intrinsically tied to that user. So for instance, if you added a user and add, let's say, a Yealing phone to them right away, you get it registered, they can pick up that VoIP phone, dial *98. That will log them directly into their voicemail box, right? Now they just got created, so the system will walk them through creating a voicemail box PIN number for themselves, and then through creating a voicemail box greeting, right? So then they're basically all set up. Here's your option to include in the user directory, their smart PBX directory or dial by name directory, however you want to refer to it. This option here is to send emails to an alternate address. So if you want your password resets or your voicemail notifications to go to a different email address than the one that's used for login for this person, you would click on the box here and then put that second email address here. And these are both things you can change later. Lastly, you have the option to send credentials to the user, right? When you do this and you click on create user, the person that you just created gets an email welcoming them to Dash. He gives them their Dash login information, right? So just creating one person, create user, creating multiple, create user, and add another. Once a user is created, you can always click on their name and you can start changing details, right? So you can change their name if you need to. Here, you can change their credentials when you click on it. So you can change their email address, you can change their password, and you can also send them the password reset email so they can change the password themselves. Here, you can change their voicemail box PIN number. Just enter 4 digits and click on Save Changes. Here's your option to send to an alternate address. Here's the option to change if they're going to be in the user directory or not. Over here to the right, little person icon. This pull down allows you to change a user into an admin to a user. If you're the only admin on the account, don't change yourself to a user, please. A little time icon here. This allows you to change the time zone for this user, right? So that way, like their voicemail timestamps are correct. Here, the ringing timeout. Generally speaking, by default, this is set to 20 seconds, which is plenty of time to send calls to a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a person using a cell phone, you'd want to update this to 30 seconds or more. Now, in this case, it's grayed out because Aaron has a feature enabled called Follow Me, right? Which is a feature for people with multiple devices. And so that feature controls the ringing time. Next, you have the extension box, right? So they already have a primary extension. You can add additional ones if you're so inclined. Then click on Save Changes. Here is a phone number box, right? Users can have their own phone number or multiple phone numbers if you want them to, right? Now, this phone number rings them directly, so it bypasses anything else. It goes right to them, to their devices. If they don't pick up, then it goes right to their voicemail box. This phone number is available 24/7. Right? It does not have hours of operation, just always on, always available. Right? So that could be a problem if someone has a personal cell phone here, or could be what they want. Next up, we have devices. So here you can add devices, either reuse a device, right? You had a phone that was in use by one person, they left the company, you're like, well, we can just reuse the phone and move it to someone else. So anything that's already in use, you have to unassign it first, and then it becomes a spare device or phone number, for example. Then you have the option to add from spare, right? So I can click here. It's going to give me a list of available devices that are not currently in use. I would click on the box in front of them and then click Select, and then click on Save Changes. For new devices, you have these options here. SIP phone, this is that piece of physical hardware, right? Sits on someone's desk. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some of them have a lot of models to choose from, right? Some only about half a dozen or a dozen. Right? No matter what you're using, find the make and model of the phone. Then down here, you want to give it a name, right? Like Bob's phone or warehouse phone, something like that, just so it's easy to recognize. Some customers, use phone 1, 2, 3, etc. That's great initially, but 6 months from now, you might not know where that phone is just by looking at the device name, right? MAC address, this is unique to each device. Typically a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in, typically like under a status or basic settings, you should have the MAC address there listed there, and you enter this information here. It's an alphanumeric sequence. I think it's 12 numbers. Right? Yeah. And then you would click on Create Device. Now, after you click on Create Device, and we'll go down here to Bob because he has a VoIP device. All right, you would come back to the device here. Under Advanced, go to Miscellaneous, and where it says Allow Reprovision, click Unlock, and then Save Changes, and you have to click Save Changes here. Right? That tells the system, hey, this phone is ready to be provisioned. Now, within the dashboard, you're basically done. However, you need to log into that phone's web user interface. Right? Basically, that is get the IP address from the phone, put that IP address in a web browser on a computer that's on the same network as that phone. You log into the phone's web user interface and basically tell, hey, go to this URL to get your configuration file. For the specifics of that, go up here to the top, click on the little graduation icon, get to our support pages. Do a search for auto provisioning. It's going to get you to a document that has the screenshots of what to look for these various manufacturers, as well as the proper syntax for that URL. And in some cases, some settings to double check, right? But basically, you follow those steps. The phone's going to reboot a couple times. And when it's done, it will show up as a green device on your account. The only other thing you may want to do is come back here under the devices, under advanced, double check audio, and just make sure G711A and G711U, you've clicked and dragged over here to the right under selected, and then click on save changes. Now, you can leave this without nothing because then the system will just use what's available, which would be those two codecs. But just for overall ease of compatibility, it's easier to move these over to the right and hit selected. And you'll use these two codecs for any physical hardware. Even if you're using a soft phone to provision a piece of hardware, you would still want these codecs over. And then here under Advanced Emergency Caller ID, this is where you can select a different phone number to have the correct address associated with this person or this device. Oh, actually, we can do it here. So here, a cell phone or landline, right? Give it a name, and then you put the number. You might not be able to see it clearly on YouTube. You need to put +1, then area code and phone number, right? Click on Save Changes, or click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. Let's click on Bob's cell phone here. So here, we see it here. He gave it a name, and we have the +1 area code and phone number. So in terms of how Dash handles calls to a cell phone, as I mentioned before, once it reaches the cell phone and you pick up, or Bob picks up, that's the final spot the call can go to, right? Bob's not going to be able to transfer calls from his cell phone to someone else on your Dash account. So call comes in, rings Bob's cell phone, right? He hears it ring, he picks up. When he picks up, he's going to hear a message from the system saying, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When he presses 1, he's telling the system, yes, he's there, and yes, he wants to take the call. He can then handle the call, everyone's happy. Now, if, for instance, you have contracted out with another company for an automated answering service, right? So they can handle your after-hours calls, right? So they give you a phone number saying, hey, just send calls to these phone numbers, we'll handle your calls. So you would add that phone number as a cell phone or landline device on your account with us. However, if you're sending calls to an automated answering service, it doesn't know when to press 1. Right? It just picks up the call and it assumes that it's going to start handling it. So in that situation, you'd come to the device, you'd click on it, and then go to Advanced and go to the options. And actually what you would see is this, right? So this first one here, allow use of cell phone's voicemail. You'd want to click the box to turn that on. So that way the system doesn't, when the system hears the pickup tone, it doesn't play that message of this is a forwarded call, please press 1. Right? When you click on this box here, instead, when the system hears that pickup tone, it connects the call. Right? So then the automated answering service can handle the call from that point forward. If this is actually Bob's cell phone and you have this checked, what can happen is Bob's cell phone's voicemail can pick up. The system still treats that like a pickup tone. So the inbound caller ends up on Bob's cell phone's personal voicemail versus the system voicemail. Right? Some people want that, some people don't. Another thing that can come up with calls going to cell phones or landlines is this one here. Keep original caller ID. So customer Mary calls in, gets to Bob. So on Bob's cell phone, he sees customer Mary's phone number. Maybe, and he doesn't, let's say he doesn't recognize it. So he's like, I'm tired of these robo-dialers for either extending his warranty, or maybe he's getting hit with political calls. Who knows? Let's go to voicemail. Maybe, or maybe not, he's able to reach out to customer Mary. If instead you uncheck this, right? Click on Save Changes and Save Changes down here. When calls go to Bob's cell phone, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number, we go back to the dashboard here, under caller ID, he sees this 408 phone number show up on his cell phone. So hopefully he would recognize the main number for the company, and he would then pick up the call. All right, next up is new device is soft phone. First up, whenever you add a soft phone or a web phone on the account, you're going to get this warning message. I would recommend that you read it at least once or twice. But it's basically, hey, there's such thing as wireless VoIP technology. So if you dial 911 from a mobile VoIP device, you might be sending emergency services to the wrong place. All right, once you're done reading that, click on close and you'll get a big box popping up. And you're adding a soft phone. Now, by default, the system is adding a third-party soft phone, right? So basically, there are more third-party soft phones in the world, or people using third-party soft phones, than there are using VirtualPBX soft phones. So the system said, hey, we're going to default you to using a third party, which is fine if you want to use a third party. However, if you want to use the VirtualPBX soft phone, underneath where it says the View Configuration Guide, there's a little toggle. It's saying use third-party application. You click that, right? So it says use third-party application, click here. Now I flipped it, right? So now it says use VirtualPBX application. Now I just need to give it a name. I click on create device, and then I click on save changes. Once I click on save changes here, Ariel will get an email, right? Saying, hey, your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. Here is your login information. Here are the download links to download the app to your device, right? Whether it's a cell phone or tablet or computer. After that, they just need to log in and they can make use of the soft phone. Now, the reason I bring it up here under the users page is this is the only place you can add the VirtualPBX soft phone to a user, right? There's some of you may have noticed on the left, there's a devices tab. If you add a soft phone on the devices tab, you don't have that little toggle, right? So on the devices tab, if you add a soft phone, you're only adding a third-party device. The other thing that's key to add on this page, especially, is the web phone, right? You still get that warning message, but you just need to give it a device name, click on create device, and then click on save changes. The web phone uses your dash login information. When you go to webphone.virtualpbx.net, it uses that same email address, password, and your account realm. So it needs to be associated with a user to have all that sync up. All right, user features. First up, caller ID number. This is for users that have their own phone number or numbers, right? You turn it on, you select a phone number on their user, and then you click on save changes. And that becomes their outbound caller ID whenever they make a call from their VoIP phone, instead of your main number, right? By default, whenever your VoIP phones are making a call out, they're going to use that main number that we set up under the caller ID on the dashboard page. But if you want to change that to a specific phone number, because let's say Bob is covering a certain region, you can then have that local phone number show up for that region. Virtual text application. This is a relatively new feature. If you're not seeing this feature on your users, you need to reach out to our services team. They are the ones who need to enable it. They'll probably also be talking to you about SMS registration. But here, you click to turn the feature on. You select a phone number on the account. This is a phone number assigned to the user, one of your main numbers, or if you have auto attendants on your account, one of your auto attendant numbers. You click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, the user gets an email welcoming them to Virtual Text. They can download the Virtual Text app to their cell phone. So at this point, it's possible you have a user with 3 emails from VirtualPBX, right? The first one welcoming them as a user to Dash, so they have their Dash login. They could have a second one saying that their VirtualPBX soft phone is ready with login information that is for that, right? So 2 different sets of login right there. And then they'll have a third email welcoming them to Virtual Text, which has yet a third login, right? So you got 3 different logins for 3 different things. The main advantage of virtual text is you can share your numbers among your staff members, so that way you can have multiple people keep track of text conversations with your customers. Voicemail box. This will be the default settings for a new user. Oh, so one thing I should point out, or at least I mentioned it briefly. If you just signed up with us, right, and you're just logging in for the first time, you want to come to your users tab here, click on your extensions box, and assign yourself a new extension, right? Because you don't, by default, the first user added to account is not given an extension number, right? Because we want to give you that option to start your extension series the way you want it. And then you would click on Save Changes. Once you do that for that first user, right, then under user features, you can enable your voicemail box. Because so the system uses your extension number and mirrors that to your voicemail box number, right? So if your extension 1000, you have voicemail box 1000. So here you have enabled. Transcribe is basically the system listens in on the voicemail and types it out in the email notification to the best of its ability. If people are not speaking into their microphones, or they have a bad microphone that picks up lots of bad background noise, that's going to impact the quality of that transcription. Voicemail to email by default is on. This means when we send you that email notification saying, hey, you have a voicemail, we include an MP3 attachment so you can listen to it directly to your email. One thing to keep in mind is your voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages each. After that, they are full and cannot hold any more. Now, by default, you have 3 ways to listen to your voicemail and 2 ways to manage your voicemail box, right? So the first way to listen to it was that email notification, right? The second way is you can log in to dash.virtualpbx.com, go to your user portal. So for an admin, you have to select user portal. For your normal staff members, that's where they default to. And you go to your voicemail tab. You can listen to your voicemails directly there through the website. You can download them. You can delete them. The other way is you can call in, right? So if your system has a phone number that goes to the virtual receptionist, you can dial that main number. When you hear the main greeting play, you can hit *97 from cell phone, landline, whatever. The system will then ask you for the voicemail box number and then the PIN number. And then you can listen to your voicemails over the phone. And then you'll have the option to delete them over the phone as well. Now, if you have like a voicemail box that is too busy, right? Let's say it can fill up to 100 messages in the first half of your day before anyone has a chance to clear them out, then you may want to do something like this here, which is delete the messages after that email notification is sent, right? So person calls in, leaves a message, system sends you an email, or whoever it's going to. Then after that email is sent off, the system deletes the voicemail from the voicemail box, so the voicemail box cannot become full. Now, that limits how you can check your voicemails, right? Because you can only check via email. So if for some reason you're not able to get emails, you might be losing voicemail messages. And there we go. Follow me. This is for users with multiple devices, where you can, as an admin, set up how their devices are going to ring. Now, for this setting, this is for calls that are going directly to the user only, right? So i.e., someone dials their extension number, call is transferred to them, or you set up a menu option that goes to just their user, right? So if this user is part of a ring group, the calls from the group ignore this feature completely. All right, so when you first set it up, it will look like this. Right? It's saying, hey, you haven't decided what devices you're going to make use of. Right? In fact, here we can just do that real quick. All right, so here I enable it. This doesn't want you to tell what devices are you going to use, right? So you uncheck over here on the far right where it says do not ring. And then I have a little green bar here that I can click and drag to give it a ring time. Now, along the top here are timestamps. The default is 120 seconds. I can change that to 60. I can also click this distribute button, right? So now I'm ringing my soft phone here first, and then it rings to my cell phone. I can click and drag, and I can adjust these sliders even more than that if I want to. Or I can change the order by clicking and dragging, and then click distribute again. So now it's ringing the cell phone number first, right? And again, I can adjust the bars if I want to. And then any changes you make, click on Save Changes. Fax box. Users can have their own fax box if you want them to. Right, so this would be an addition to or possibly instead of your main fax box. You would select, are you using a spare number, buying a new number, or assigning a new extension number? I recommend making use of a phone number. This is because that means if you use a phone number, this person can send and receive faxes. If you select an extension number, the person can only ever receive faxes, and you potentially limit who can send them faxes. Right? So like electronic fax services, right, e-fax services, they may not allow you to send a fax to an extension number because from what I've seen, most of them let you put in a phone number and that's it. No additional options for additional digits. They may do so for an additional fee. I don't know. But even for analog fax machines, right, physical fax machines, you're relying on the person who's faxing to you to know how to do that. Whether that's, putting phone number, comma, extension number, or they listen in and then when they hear the greeting, they enter the extension number and then click, press the send fax button. Conference bridge. When you enable a conference bridge on a feature, the only thing you need to do here is fill out a PIN number for the user and then click on Save Changes. The user can change the PIN numbers themselves under their user portal. The enable voice conferencing here, if you enable it, that just means your staff members can make use of video conferencing. Anyone outside of the Dash account will not be able to. Call forwarding. So you have off, on, or failover mode. Your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on their own. Right? So the only thing as an admin you would actually have to set up for them would be failover mode. Failover mode is for your VoIP phone users. Right? So basically what happens is if their VoIP phone becomes unregistered, right? Let's say the dog ran by, yanked out the Ethernet cable, and their phone's on the floor. They're like, they're trying to fix it. Call comes into the user right at that time. Well, instead of going to their voicemail with failover mode enabled, you can tell the system, hey, if the phone becomes unregistered, you select mobile or desk phone. Then you put +1 area code and phone number, with spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and saying, hey, phone's unregistered, send a call to this phone number, right? So it reaches that user's cell phone number, for example. So they can at least take the call, and then when they're done, fix whatever their problem is with their VoIP phone. And then you would click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. So you can record calls on your account. When you first enable the feature, which you do up here by clicking Enable, it looks like this. It's not recording anything at this point. You need to tell it the kinds of calls you want to record. Right. So first up, inbound internal. This is a coworker call, right? So coworker Bob called Aaron. Record it. If you want to record these, you turn it on. You can leave it as is or put it to off if you don't want to record those. Right. Inbound external, right? Call coming in from outside of the system, right? Customer Mary calling Aaron. Typically would want to record that. Right. Outbound internal means Aaron called coworker Bob. Right. And then outbound external means Aaron's calling customer Mary back. So we often see something like this or even this. And then you click on Save Changes. Now, your account includes some amount of data storage as part of your plan price. If you're recording every call and you have heavy call volume, you definitely want to talk to our services team about AWS integration. Now, that requires that you have an AWS account as well as a Dash account. But then with AWS integration enabled on your Dash account, you can link your Dash account to your AWS account and use Amazon Web Services to store your call recordings, which over the long haul, especially for heavy volume, is going to be more cost effective. Music on hold. This allows you to enable and upload individual hold music for your staff members. Again, this is after they press hold on their VoIP phones. Right? So like your sales staff could have one set of hold music talking about their special promotions right now. Whereas, say, your tech support staff would have a different hold music for talking about, hey, go to our, support page for the latest in FAQs, etc. You would click upload .mp3.wav under 1 megabyte, ideally recorded in mono. Find the file, click the up arrow icon, and then save changes. Do not disturb. When you enable this means you're telling the system, don't send calls to this user, right? So what happens is someone dials in, enters Aaron's extension number. If they have do not disturb active, they go right to their voicemail box. If Aaron is part of a group, he's actually skipped in the group, which can cause another problem which you'd want to address, i.e. change the sliders there, but we'll come for that shortly. Hot desking, VoIP phone feature. This is designed for a shared office environment or hybrid scheduling. So you set up a hot desk ID for the user. I usually say just match it to their extension number, especially if you're using 4-digit extensions. Up to you if you're going to require a PIN number. And then you click on Save Changes. So Aaron comes into the office on Tuesday. He sits down at desk number 2. He picks up the VoIP phone there. He hits *11. That tells the phone to turn on hot desking. It asks him for his hot desk ID. If you required a PIN number, it will ask him for his PIN number. Once he goes through that, then the system will tell him calls will now be sent to this device. Now, for the rest of his workday, while he's at the office, right, calls that are looking for Aaron will ring to him at that particular phone that he's sitting at. Right, at desk number 2, he can pick up, answer, yay. End of his day, he picks up the phone, he hits *12, presses send, that turns off hot desking. Right? It'll still ask him for his hot desk ID, etc. Next time he comes to the office, right, Angela's sitting at desk number 2, he says good morning, and then he sits down at desk number 7, same thing, right? Picks up the phone, *11, enters hot desk ID, and now he's getting calls at desk number 7. All right, groups, sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups, right? Basically, departments allows you to offer a call to multiple staff members, typically because they're answering calls about a similar topic. Now, up here at the top, you click on Add Group. You need to give it a name, and you need to give it an extension number. Once you've done that, you click and drag your staff members over to the right that you want to be part of the group, and then you click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name. Right? So you can always change the name if you want. And then you also have group call attempts. This is how many times the system will offer a call to the members of the group. Right? Got little arrows here to the far right, so you can increase or decrease that as needed. Here's your option to delete a group if you no longer need it. Otherwise, you would click on Save Changes. Next, we have the members box. This shows my staff members who are assigned and how I'm having calls offered to them. So this setup here is referred to as blast ringing or ring all, right? Essentially, calls come in, rings everybody at the same time until one of them picks up, right? Whoever gets it first gets it. Now, any of these staff members who have multiple devices, when they get a call from this group, all of them ring at the same time, right? The calls from the group ignore the user feature follow me. So that's one way for a user to know, oh, I'm getting a group call versus someone calling my extension number. Now, up here at the top, you have your ring duration here. Defaults to 120 seconds. You can change that to be longer if you want, or shorter. Right, these are sliders, so you can, oops. Uh-oh. Right, so you can click and drag and adjust the length. Right, and just like in the follow me feature, right, you can change the order. Right, so you can click distribute. So now Aaron's getting calls first every time. Right, now calls to a group, they don't skip somebody. Right, so first call comes in, right? Aaron picks up, he's helping that person. A second call comes in while Aaron's on a call, he is still offered that call. Right, so if he has call waiting enabled on his phone, he will hear a beep. Right, the inbound caller won't. Once it's done offering it to him, then it offers it to David, right? So David picks up, right? Aaron and David are both on calls. Third call comes in, offered to both of them before it's offered to Michael, right? So in that kind of instance, if your group is that busy, you would probably want to do more of an overlap, so there's less potential hold time for those later callers, or leave it at blast ringing. Now down here at the bottom, you can add users, right? So you can add additional people. Click select, and I can click distribute, and there at the end, or I can bring them up to the top because they need to give some people a break, that sort of thing. Now, your staff members can't log themselves out of the group. At best, they can click the D&D toggle if they're not in any queues, right? But if you do that, so let's say Aaron puts himself on D&D. Well, now you have a gap, right? So you want to make sure that there is no gap because that can cause a problem in terms of how the system handles a call in the group, just to be safe. And then any changes you make, you click on Save Changes. Groups can have to have an extension, right? You needed one to create, but you can add multiple if you need to, just down here. Now, groups can have their own phone numbers, right? You can add from spare or buy new. I don't think I actually talked to this under users. You can, same process. So add from spare means you're reusing a phone number, right? So you find a phone number, you add selected, then you click on Save Changes. Or buy new, you have local or toll-free. Toll-free, you choose a toll-free prefix, click on search. It's going to show you a list of phone numbers. Now, the list of phone numbers it shows you is a dynamic list, so you're technically competing with people in real time. So basically, that means you don't want to like click add. So it's in your cart. Well, once it's in your cart, you haven't done anything, right? So if I walked away, right? Let's say my boss came up to me and said, "Hey, meeting now," and I'm like, "Okay," right? Well, I haven't finished buying the number. And if I'm in a long meeting, I could come back and click buy numbers and get an error because someone else could have taken this number while I was in my meeting. So whenever you add a number and you're sure you want to use it, right? You can add multiple. Then you would just click on buy numbers. Now the system is verifying the number was truly available, i.e. someone didn't take it while I was talking, and then adding it to your location. Now I can decide, oh wait, I don't really need this number here, unassign it, and then save changes. So now the number is still added to my account, but now it's a spare number. Oh, weird. Oops. Unassign, save changes. There we go. All right, next up we have group features. Ring back. So there we go. You can click to enable. What happens is when a call comes into the group, right, it rings your staff members' phones. When that ringing sound, or the ringing sound is then piped back to your inbound caller, right, ring back. If you don't want that, you can instead enable the ring back feature and upload your own media file, right, .wav, .mp3, under 1 megabyte, and then save changes. So it's kind of like hold music, but not quite, because it will only start once the phones of your staff members start to ring. Next action, to me, this is the most important group feature. You want to enable it because if no one answers, where do you want the system to send the call, right? Where are you forwarding it to? You can send it back to your main menu. You can send it to an advanced call flow, which means if you're making use of multiple auto attendants. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a different group. You can send it to a specific device. You can send it to a specific person, right? Specific user. You can also send it to a specific voicemail box. And now, there we go. And then you would click on Save Changes. Allow call forward. If you enable this, this is allowing your users to make use of call forwarding. If your staff members are making use of multiple devices, you probably don't need to enable this, right? This is only really necessary if you have staff members making use of one VoIP device only on the account, and they're going to be at like a customer site, for instance, then you can have allow call forwarding, so they can forward calls from their VoIP phone to their cell phone, right? But if you've already added their cell phone as a device to their user, not necessary. Caller ID prepend, this is a feature for your VoIP phones where you can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. And then you click on Save Changes. You only want to use one, not both. That can be confusing for your staff. All right. So we've added users and groups. So now let's go to main number. This page sometimes takes a little bit to load. I usually chalk it up to my own lack of patience. So up here at the top, you have your main company numbers. Shows all your main numbers. Right down here, you can add from either from your spare number list or you can buy new ones. Local, toll free. For local, you need to know the area code. Right. This message can come up with any area code, including the toll-free prefixes. That just means there's no number readily available in that area code or prefix. What I normally recommend is doing a Google search or Bing search. You use your favorite search engine and do, in this case, area code 310 overlay. That will tell you that the overlay for 310 is 424. And that just means these two area codes share the same geographic boundaries. Very common in your big metropolitan areas. The more sparsely located someone is, the less likely they have to deal with it. Some metros, it's worth looking, especially like Wikipedia, if you do a search for a particular area code, they can show you a map of other nearby area codes. That may also be necessary depending on it. But usually the overlays will have some additional phone numbers that you can then add. Click on by numbers, and now you added it. In this case, I'm adding it to my main numbers. In cases where you can't find a number, right? Let's say you checked 3 different overlays and maybe a couple other nearby area codes. You'd want to email our porting team to see if there's something else we can do in terms of, it's called a back order. Or even maybe we have another vendor that we can get numbers from. Back order is not a guarantee, right? What we do is we say, hey, if a number in this area code becomes available, we want to get it. At that point, we have to wait for someone to give up their, say in this case, their 310 area code phone number, right? So if they're moving out of the area. Right, so we can't guarantee when or even if we'll be able to get a number in a particular area code. In situations like that, you might be better off going to a number service like Number Barn, see if they have a number in the area code you want, and then you can port it into us. You have a little gear icon here next to all your numbers. This would also show up under the users or groups page as well. You can update the caller ID, right? So you can turn on, you can set up the outbound caller ID name, as well as turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAME. E911, you can set up the address for this particular phone number for E911 purposes only. Prepend is a VoIP phone feature. You can have additional text show up in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. Office hour strategy. You have 24-hour open office or custom office hours. If you choose custom office hours, for each day of the week that you're open, click on a check mark here and then put your open hours in 24-hour or military time. So you see here, I'm open Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Down here at the bottom, I have chosen to say I go to lunch at the same time, or at least my system goes into lunch mode at the same time every day that I'm open, right? In this case, 12 to 1 o'clock. I can choose to turn this off, so that way I don't close during lunch. Any changes here, click on Save Changes. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, you put a check mark here at the front. And then over here to the right, you can click on Add Holiday. You have your option here for single day, date range, or advanced. Single day, it's like I have here. You need to give it a name, right? So New Year's Day, I chose January 1st. click on Save Changes. If you need to remove one, click on the little trash icon and then Save Changes. Date range, right? Give it a name, start date, end date, save changes. There's no year indicator here. So as a precaution, we recommend against a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Right? Have one end there and then start on the 1st, etc. For advanced, like I have here for Thanksgiving, give it a name, choose your month. Here, you choose this middle pull down 1st through 5th as well as last, and then the day of the week, save changes. And then we have your incoming call handling. So these first three, so you have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? And then there's these little boxes here. These first three, right? So the one that's highlighted here, as I go across, these first three, not sure why it's not moving. There we go. They will show up all the time. That 4th one at the far end shows up under a couple of circumstances. One, if you have multiple auto attendants on your account and you've made one or more of them available in main menu, this would show up. If you worked with our services team for some sort of customized call flow, basically custom work, then this may also show up for you here as well. So for my main numbers, right, those 5, 6 numbers I have up there, calls come in during my open hours, I'm having them go to my virtual receptionist. Now, this is a link down here, so we can click on that. And over here on the left is my main menu. And you click Add Route to create new rows, right? And basically, well, now it's not working. In the first pull down, you have 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action. And then here you have where you want it to go. So part of the reason why I went to users and groups first is you need to have the places, the destinations in place in order to make use of the main menu here, right? So like I wouldn't be able to add Aaron as an option unless I'd already added him as a user, right? Likewise, for groups, right, I wouldn't be able to make use of the front desk group until I've already added it, right? So you have to work, sometimes you have to work a little backwards, like the destination to the main number. So you can keep clicking adding route until you have all the routes in place that you want, right? And then the various locations. Again, you have the directory, you've got users, groups, call queues if you're making use of the call center, devices. You can have it go to a media file, which isn't always recommended because after the media file is done playing, the call ends. Then over here, you've got your greeting options. First up is text-to-speech. This allows you to type in a greeting, click update, save, and save changes. This will play a computerized or robotic sounding greeting. There's no charge for this, which is why it's here. It's good for if you're just getting started, right? Whether you're a startup, you've never used a PBX system, or you're just still trying to figure out how you want things to work. Now, in the box here, you can type up at 250 characters, not words, characters. It does not count spaces. I have gotten some greetings go over up to like 300 characters, but 250 works consistently. Unfortunately, you're not able to name this file, right? The system names it for you. So in this case, it's going to be your main open hours menu TTS, right? Right, main open hours menu and TTS for text-to-speech. So if you type something here and you called in and you're, oh, I missed an option, right? So then I type in an additional right. So once I click update, all right, I would then click save changes. Now I'm going to have two files called main open hours menu TTS, which if you only have one greeting, it doesn't matter. But if you have multiple greetings, that can be confusing later on. So what I normally recommend is if you're making use of text-to-speech greeting, after you create that first one, over on the left, after you're clicked update, save changes, click on greetings, find that main open hours menu TTS, click on the wrench icon, change the name. And we'll get to that shortly. you can upload your own file. That way, if that MP3 recorded in mono because you have that 1 megabyte file size limit, but you find the file on your computer, you upload it and click update, it'll then save and save changes. You can choose from existing recordings. You see, I have a main open hours menu TTS, right? From a pull down, which won't show up here, I could have multiple of these and I wouldn't know which one is which. You can record a message over the phone. Now, by default, the system wants you to, when it says pick up a phone registered to the account, that means a VoIP phone. So if you just signed up with us and you assigned a number as a main number, if you called it right away, you would get a message saying that the greeting for this menu has not been recorded yet. It will then prompt you to enter the PIN number, right? So this PIN number here. Now, this PIN number only works during my open hours, right? It's tied to this time of day. So if I called in on Saturday, where I'm typically closed, and try to use this PIN number, I would get an invalid entry message. If you already have a greeting in place, right? So that you call in, you hear your established greeting, you can still enter this PIN number. The system will recognize it and then walk you through recording a greeting over the phone. Now, if you just signed up with us, that's great. It just walks it through. It's in place. It gives it basically your account number .recording is what it calls it in their greetings tab. But if you already had a greeting file, so let's say I had this main open hours menu TTS and I called in and recorded over the phone, the file name will stay the same, but the source changes to recording and it's now whatever I just recorded over the phone, not what I had typed in previously, right? So if you have a greeting in place and you call in and record over the phone, you're overwriting the existing greeting that's there. All right, professional recording services, when you click order, oh, actually, let me backtrack a little bit. For recording over the phone, if you don't have a VoIP phone or you don't want to use a VoIP phone, you can get around that. Under settings, go down here, where it says allow outside recording, turn that on. So now what you're doing is saying, hey, anyone can call in from any phone number, cell phone, landline, whatever. And if they enter in the PIN number, the system will allow them to record it over the phone. If you leave that off, you can only change your main greeting over the phone via a VoIP phone on your account. That's a security feature. All right. Professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab, take you to Snap Recordings, where you can order a greeting from them. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from. They bill you directly via credit card, and then they send you the file via email. So then you can just upload your own file. All right, settings. First up, we have a number of retries on misdial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. They automatically have one try, right? That they get one built in. So by having the number 1 here, my inbound caller has a total of 2 attempts. Now, so in this instance, like in this current setup, they can call in and press 0, they get to my front desk group, right? Or if they know an extension number, because I have allow extension dialing in on, right? To enter a valid extension, the system will send the call. If they press anything other than 0, and that's not a valid extension number, that's a misdial. The system will then play the greeting again and give them a second attempt. If they fail that, in this instance, I don't have a default action, so the system would end the call. It would say, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye. Now, if I have a default action, then in that instance, the system would say, we did not recognize your entry, transferring your call. And then the caller, in this case, goes to my PBX directory so they can dial someone's name. Dialing timeout is how much time the system waits to hear additional button presses, right? So that person calls in, they press 7. The system in this case is going to wait 10 seconds to make sure the person wasn't going to enter additional digits after that 7, right? Like 7552. All right, allow outside recording. Again, that's for changing your main greeting. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and that just means the inbound caller can, if they enter a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call to that extension. Right? If you turn it off, that means they can only press the menu options on the system. Anything else they enter, right? Any extension number comes up as a invalid entry. Suppress the playing of invalid entry message, right? So on that last attempt, right, this system says we did not recognize your entry, goodbye. If you don't want that message to play, you click this on, right? Because that's by turning it on, you're suppressing that message from playing. Any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you click save here, and then you click save changes here, right? You're clicking save twice. All right, after hours, in this case, I have calls going my after hours. I'm offering it first to my front desk and then to my after hours virtual receptionist. This is a pull down, so I can select, say, a specific user, right? A different ring group, a call queue, device, right? So a particular phone can be offered a call first, etc. Right? The idea here is this is the live operator answer option, right? So you're giving someone or a group of people a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to, then the system sends that caller to the virtual receptionist. And you see your after hours can be different than your open hours, right? So I have different menu options here. I have likely a different greeting. You can have different settings here as well. And then holiday here, again, I have a pull down, so I can select users, groups, queues, etc. Or media file. There's an additional extra option here at the very end, which is skip to voicemail, right? And then the second pull down is a specific voicemail box you want the messages to go to. Right, so basically during my holidays, I'm saying, hey, just send callers to my main voicemail box, right? Fourth option, again, that's special circumstances. Essentially, this allows you to send your calls for your main number to one of your secondary attendants or a special call flow. Most of you probably won't encounter that. A main conference number, you can have multiple numbers, right? So you can add from spare or by new numbers. You also have the ability to add a custom greeting, but it's text-to-speech, right? So type in what you wanted to say, click save, and it will play. Even without the custom greeting feature enabled, when you call your conference number or numbers, the system will say, welcome to the conference, and then prompt the inbound caller to enter the conference room number, and then the PIN number. The main fax box, you can have the one main fax box number. That's why I don't have the option to add more. But once you do have enough fax box number, then you can edit the fax box. When you click edit here, opens up this box here. First is the inbound notification email. To the box to the right, you put an email address, and this email gets sent an email every time a fax comes into the system. The email will have like the date and the time, phone numbers involved, and then have a PDF attachment for the fax itself. Now, if someone calls your fax box number by mistake, right? Let's say they called from their cell phone, and then they hang up after they hear fax tones, this email gets an email saying, hey, there was a failed inbound fax attempt. Now, sometimes the caller ID information shows up in the body of the email saying like a wireless number, that which tells you right off the bat that was a misdial. Otherwise, if you're expecting a fax from a particular phone number, then you would need to contact that person to find out what happened on their side. The email permissions. This is designed to put your company email domain over here to the right. So for example, we have at virtualpbx.com here. This means anyone with a virtualpbx.com email address can send a fax out from this account, even if they're not a user on the account. They just need that proper format of, especially the account realm in this case. You can put a specific email address in there if you want to. You would want to avoid putting like public email domains like Gmail or Yahoo, because if someone figures it out, then anyone on those domains can send a fax out on your account. All right, auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature, so available on some plans and not others. Allows you to create multiple auto attendants. The reason you would do this would be, one, for a sub-menu setup, right? So you want 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. Well, English and Spanish would then be their own auto attendants here, and they would have their own greetings, and then their menu options would go to the people who speak the relevant language. The other reason you would do this is if you have multiple businesses and you want them on the same account, right? So those extra businesses would have their own phone numbers, their own main greetings, right? And then you could route to the same staff people if you wanted to, or different people, right? They just need to be users on the account. Up here at the top, you click on Add Attendant. You give it a name, you give it an extension number. The extension number is not something your customers would necessarily ever know, but your staff members could use it to transfer calls. Like for instance, if I was on a multilingual account, right, and Spanish speaker gets to me for some reason, it's apparent to me that they don't speak any English and I hardly speak any Spanish. I would have to say, hold on, and then transfer them to my Spanish auto attendant on the account, so that way they can get the help they would need. Now, once an auto attendant is created, you can click on their name. It defaults to be like this, unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, right? Designed to be its own business, for example. You have the option to delete. I can click on this to make it available in main menu. So that means it's a sub-menu option now, right? 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. So it's available in my main menu or other places, right? If I leave it as unavailable, that means I can't set it up as from one of the pull downs within the system, right? It can't be a menu option from my virtual receptionist, for example. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? You can add from spare or buy new. Right? They have to have an extension number. They can have multiple if you want them to. And then if you click on the little wrench icon under settings, you see they have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This matches what we set up under the main number, right? This also means that, right, the phone numbers under auto attendants and main numbers, they have hours of operation. They only work during these times, and they route specific ways depending on the time of day. Right. Devices tab shows all your devices on the account. Red means it's unregistered, so we're not going to be able to send a call to it. That could be like for a soft phone, someone hasn't logged in, or it could be, plug is uncabled, or it could be an internet issue. Green means it's registered, so we can send calls to it. A black device, that means over here you've turned it off. Now at the top, you can add devices here. Just like I showed under users. The main difference, again, soft phone, you don't have the option to flip it to say use VirtualPBX application. So if you need to use the VirtualPBX soft phone and you get a screen like this, you started in the wrong spot. You need to go back to the user. Again, under the wrench icon for VoIP phones, right, advanced audio, again, for hardware, G711A, G711U. For the VirtualPBX soft phone or web phone, you want Opus. And you just click and drag to add a codec over to make use of it. External ID, this is where you would set up a phone to have a specific outbound caller ID. Anytime it makes a call, and then the emergency caller ID, this again, assigning a specific phone number with address to a particular VoIP phone so it has the correct location for E911 purposes. All right, greetings tab shows all your media files on the account, right? Main greetings, voicemail greetings, hold music files. Right, you've got the name. The source is TTS, right? Text to speech. Upload means you uploaded it. Recording means it was recorded over the phone. This column here allows you to play back the file right on your browser. Now, if for some reason that doesn't work, then you've got the download column here. So you can download the file to your device and then listen to a media player directly on your device. And then you have the wrench icon here, which allows you to change the name. or even delete it if you no longer need it. Right, and you can do a search. So if I do, right, so here you can see I have main open hours menu TTS. I have several. I have one that I changed to keep. Right, so I know I can get rid of these other ones most likely. So I could go to like this one here, click on the wrench icon, click on delete, and now we removed it, but now I need to do the search again. Right. Number, oh wait, oops, wait. Up here at the top, you can upload greetings here. Right, you give it a name, you find the file on your computer, click on create greeting, it will upload it here, but you're not assigning it anywhere. Right, so you have to go to the particular spot you want to use it to assign it. Likewise, you can't unassign it from here either. All right, numbers tab. Starts you off with numbers in use. Right, so basically, hey, these are numbers you're using, they're assigned. Got the little gear icon here, so you can update caller ID, E911, or PPN for any specific number. Again, you cannot unassign a number here. You can only see where they're assigned to. Spare numbers, the numbers you're not using. If you want to remove a number from your account, you would just click on the checkbox in front of it, then click delete up here at the top, click delete number to confirm, and now it's gone from your account. Right, buy numbers, local, toll free. If you're buying numbers on the spare numbers page, you're adding them as additional spare numbers. Port, click on new port request, give it a name, and choose local or toll free. Click next. Now the system wants you to upload a PDF of your most recent bill from the current carrier. So porting just means you're moving a phone number from one carrier to another, right? So from Comcast to VirtualPBX. So in this case, we'd want a bill from Comcast. Okay. Further in the system, we'll want the address associated and the company name that's associated with Comcast, the phone number or numbers that you want to port. It's going to ask for the BTN, the billing telephone number. If you're only porting one phone number, that's your BTN, right? If you have multiple, then you probably have to double check with your carrier. For mobile phone numbers, if you're porting them into us, one, you need a PIN number, an account PIN, which you have to get from your carrier. Normally you want to do that ahead of time, just because it might be different than whatever PIN number you might be using to access your account. The other thing to keep in mind when you're porting a mobile number is once the number ports, your cell phone that's associated with that number will stop working until you get a new phone number from your cell phone provider, right? Because basically you're moving that number from your cell phone onto your Dash account. So no longer associated with that specific device. Further in the process, it will ask you to, or give you the option to download a blank LOA or letter of agency. The LOA does ask you for your company name, your address, etc. That matches what your current carrier has on file for you, and then list the phone number or phone numbers you are porting. There's also a little small blank there to indicate a PIN number if you're porting a mobile number. Also, some VoIP or landline carriers may also require a PIN number to port out, but that's not nearly as common as the cell phone carriers. And then you can upload the completed and signed LOA in this process and then submit your documents. The LOA does need a signature, whether that's a digital signature file, or you actually downloaded, printed it out, signed it manually, and scanned it back in. Right? Typing your name twice will get rejected. Printing your name will also get rejected, and that just delays when the number will port in. Generally speaking, toll-free numbers take about 1 week, right? 3 to 5 business days. And then local numbers average about 2 to 3 weeks, although sometimes they can be faster than that. And then ports normally complete at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. We normally email you when we have an expected port date, so you at least have some warning. If we get a rejection, we double check to make sure we didn't have like any kind of typo anywhere, or if we have, like in the case of an address problem, we double check to make sure if there's 2 addresses we could use, we check both addresses. But after that, we then let you know, hey, we're getting a rejection for this reason. You're going to need to contact your carrier to find out what the correct information should be. All right, voicemail boxes. Shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Any voicemail box that has an entry under the user column here, right, that third column, that means that was a voicemail box that was created when the user was created. If there's a blank there, that means it's the main voicemail box, which the system creates automatically, or a voicemail box you created here on this page. And to do that, we go up to the top, click on Add Voicemail Box. You give it a name, give it a voicemail box number, and then a PIN number. Click on Create New Voicemail Box. Once a voicemail box is created, you can click on the wrench icon. So this information, right, you would use to like check the voicemail messages over the phone or set up its voicemail greeting. Under Advanced Greeting Media, you can upload a file, or you can choose an existing media file to play as a voicemail greeting, right? .wave, .mp3, recorded in mono. Now, you have two options here. You have media and temporary, right? Temporary is for your out of office or vacation message. So if you have two files selected for media and temporary, the temporary file plays. The media file does not. Now, once you take the temporary file and set it back to none, then your media file will play. Right, so you can technically have two different greetings depending on the situation. Recipients. So you can add additional recipients to any voicemail box, right? So your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? That email address used for login. Now, if you need to add additional people, like a manager type, or you want, or for a manually created voicemail box, you would come here, you would click on Add Recipient, and that will create a entry here. Let's add new recipient. You enter in another email address here. If I need to add yet a third person, click Add again. Keep clicking Add until you're done with the emails, and then you click on Save Changes. And then we have options. So once you have a media file in place and you have a recipient in place, you'd want to put a check mark in front of this box here because it's already set up. Down here towards the bottom, right, you can make sure that the allow attached messages to email is set. And then you also have the option here to delete after emails are sent if you want. And then click on Save Changes. All right, call logs. Call logs show your call history on the account. It defaults to today, right, the current day. So you can see the current calls that have come in today. Oh, we've had quite a few calls in today. Green arrow to the right means it's an incoming call that came in. You can click on a call to expand, and you can see where it was offered. And if I click on this one here, you can see which device actually answered and they spoke. Yellow arrow to the left is an outbound call. Again, you can click on it to expand and see some additional details. Up here at the top, you can download up here. That just downloads a CSV file. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you can get some more information out of the call logs. The little fire extinguisher icon. This creates an email for you that goes direct, or that's addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It has the technical details. Now, you're going to want to type in the body of that email context, right? Why are you sending this in? Is it because your phone didn't ring or you had bad audio, etc.? Some of that stuff we're not going to know just from the technical details. You have additional tabs here to go back for the week, the current month. Custom allows you to set your date range, right? So you can go back to the previous month and then click filter. and then see older calls if necessary. The system will allow you to go back up to 12 months. After that, you would have to call into our support team, and our engineering team can go back up to 18 months total, right? So 6 additional months. After that, the data is no longer available. So if for some reason you need your call logs for compliance reasons, I would advise you do this on a monthly basis. Right, just download and name the file, in May 2023. All right, feature codes. These are, I've mentioned a couple of these, but these are a way for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. Right, so that *98, right, goes directly to voicemail. *11, that's for the hot desking, etc. This page is also a page on our support pages, so you don't have to log into your Dash account to see them. There's also a document on our support page called the phone commands cheat sheet, which has these feature codes, but it also has a little help information there as well to make it a little easier to use. And again, this is for your VoIP phone users. All right, so that's the dashboard. Next up, we'll go to blacklists. This is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your system. Basically, you don't want them calling you. Right, so you start by clicking Edit Blacklist. If you don't have a list, you click on Add to create a new one. Otherwise, you can click on an existing list. When you create a new list, you need to give it a name. And then you choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? Right, by default, it's off, which means call comes in and it's not presenting valid inbound caller ID. Right, we don't see the phone number. By default, the call will be let through. Right, now, if you turn this on, right, now those calls won't get through. They get a busy tone. Down here, you click on Add Number, and then you add any specific phone number that you want to have blocked, right? +1, area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses. And keep clicking Add until you're done adding numbers. Once you are done, you would click Save here at the bottom right. Then towards the top right, click on Back to Settings. Make sure your list is over here on the right-hand side under Selected. That means you might need to click and drag things over. All right, and then click Update at the bottom right. So now the phone numbers on these two lists, when they try to call any of my phone numbers, right? So my main numbers, my fax box numbers, conference room numbers, numbers on users, groups, etc., busy tone. Faxes, this is your fax manager, an included feature. This allows you to see the fax activity on your account. Starts you off on your inbound fax tab, over here towards the top right, or top left, excuse me. And then you select the fax boxes on your account. And so here I can see the inbound faxes that have come in. In fact, I had one here earlier today. I see the date and the time, the phone number involved, number of pages. I can download the file. I can view additional details if I want to. Likewise, I could go down here and choose to delete a fax from the account, like if I'm worried about data storage. Outbound fax tab, again, select the fax box, and you see here the outbound faxes. Now, when you see a failure, that means we had a problem with the other phone number in some fashion. Now, that could be because the other phone number was busy. Or it could be we connected initially and then something interrupted transmission, right? Like someone picked, like if it went to an analog fax machine, someone might have accidentally picked up the handset and started dialing, which would interrupt the inbound fax, or could interrupt that fax. The email to fax logs. When you see entries here, that means this is where the system had a problem processing the request, right? So we never called the other phone number, right? So you see the email address that it came from. You see the format of the to field, so you see that's correct. date, time, little eyeball icon here to the far right. Click on that. That's going to give you some additional information. And here you see no valid attachment. Right? That could be someone forgot to attach a file, right? Or they attached the wrong file type. Right? In terms of faxing, right? PDF or a TIFF file. Sometimes it'll actually tell you the file type that was attempted to be sent out. Not sure why it's not showing up in this case. But that is the fax manager. Number manager, this takes you to your spare number page, which we were already looking at. The reports, this is a plan-specific feature. It's advanced reporting. I actually mentioned this at the top. Under the description, you'll see a link there to the advanced reporting demo, because that can actually show you what can go on there. It doesn't work here with the streaming software. Basically allows you to create your own reports to see, get you more data about your call activity on your account. This is something, if you're interested in, watch the demo. And if you're still interested, then you want to talk to our account services team about making sure if it can be enabled on your account, or if you need to upgrade your account to get it. Voicemails takes you to your voicemail box manager. So you can get to any voicemail box on the account. So here you can see the voicemails that have been left, their status, right? Date, the time, phone numbers involved, how long. You can play it back, you can download it. As an admin, when you click on the box in front of it, you can move a voicemail to a specific other voicemail box, or you can change its status. All right, so you can get ready for deletion, so that way you're not getting a full voicemail box. SMS registration, this is if you want to make use of texting. The first page is just basically what it's about and why. This second tab is where you actually start up the registration process, and then your status of your registration. For most of this, like our support team has some basic information in terms of like what the various status types are. Beyond that, we pretty much have to refer you to our services team, as they're the ones who are handling the SMS registration process. We also have that webinar link in the description for the SMS registration, as well as there'll be an additional webinar regarding SMS. It's compliance do's and don'ts, and that is scheduled for May 18th. All right, let's see. Oh, call center. Also under description, you want to look at the ACDQ's Pro demo link. That's what what call center used to be called. This is call queues, right? So like if you've called your bank and you heard that message, please wait while your call is handled by the next available agent. That's when you entered a call queue as an inbound caller, right? Flip side is for your staff, right? Call queues allow you to assign multiple staff members to queues. They can change their queue status, right? So like your agents can mark themselves away for like when they go to lunch. They can log in and out at the beginning and end of their shifts, right? So that way you can always have people coming in and out if you have a 24-hour service center, for example. The queues can have or allow like a manager to eavesdrop in on a call, whisper to your staff member, or even barge in to help take over the call. All right, there's some reporting metrics in there as well. That should all be in that demo. If this is something you're interested in, this is an add-on to existing plans. It's possible in some cases you may need to change plans, and then you can add on the queues. You want to talk to our account services team to make sure about the pricing of all of that. All right, dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change your outbound caller ID from calls from your VoIP phones. Right, so it only works with VoIP. And you would click on Create New Rule. And so first, you give it a name, like what you're trying to do with it. Then you would select a phone number on your account. And then what are the parameters? In this case, I'm saying whenever my staff members dial area code 408, change their phone outbound caller ID to the 669 phone number. 669 is an overlay for the 408 area code. They're both in San Jose. All right, so that way, no matter where my staff members are located, right, whenever they pick up the VoIP phone, they dial a 408 number, the system will automatically change their outbound caller ID to 669. Likewise, I have this one here. Now, this one, I'm saying, hey, for LA, change the area code to 323. But here, I'm telling my staff members they need to dial *550 and then area code and phone number, right? So for ideally, they're doing this for anyone they're dialing in that LA area code or area codes, because there's like several of them around LA. Right, and so some people could choose not to do this. Like if I have staff members who already have a 323 phone number or 424, etc., they can choose not to do it. Right, to say, hey, I already have this one number assigned for the same area, so why bother? Monitor, another plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your other staff members. Doesn't matter what phone they're using. Right, so unfortunately, this is a test account, so you can't really see any activity here, but I could go by employees or by devices. Right, I could see all, who's available or who's busy. For active inbound calls, I would see them listed here. Each would have a little blue box and who they're speaking to. Likewise, let's say Aaron was on a call, right? His icon here on the left would turn blue and would show me what device he's using and who's calling, or the number of the person who's calling in. Parked calls, if you have anyone parked, their phone number will be listed here and their parking spot number. Recording manager, this would take you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, right? So it opens a new tab. That uses your dash login to log in, and that's where you're going to view your call recordings. Now, if you're using AWS storage, this would instead show you the interface via, or the file is located on your AWS account. Webhooks, another plan-specific feature. This allows you to link your Dash account to other software. So in the description, click on the link for the Introduction to Zapier webinar. That's going to give you some ideas of what we've done in terms of linking Dash to other software. You can also go to a website, developer.virtualpbx.com. That has sample code of what we have done in terms of linking Dash to other software. This is programming. So like our tier 1 support, not really going to be able to help you with this. In fact, our tier 2, we typically have to refer you to tier 3. But basically, you would click on new hook and basically fill out the form to create the webhook, but then you need something on the other side to link it to. If you're interested in this, again, check out that link in the description for the Zapier webinar. Check out developer.virtualpbx.com. And then you actually want to speak to our sales team because they have some additional information. And then lastly, we have the user portal. User portal, right? Each user has their own individual user portal, right? So admins typically would have to click the menu icon and select it, whereas most of your standard staff members, right, non-system admins, it defaults them here. And then they're on their voicemails tab. So as long as their voicemail box is not set up to delete after notification, their voicemails will show up here. So they can listen to them, they can download them, and they can change the status here to mark it for deletion. The call history tab, they can view their call history. They can change their date range. So they can see the calls from a particular month. The fax tab only works for users that have their own fax box. That's why I get that little warning message here. The contact list tab shows the other users on the account, groups, auto attendance, etc. This is basically so your staff have an easier time to transfer calls to other people. This is not something they can change or edit in any fashion. This is something they can only view. The conference tab, basically only active for users who have the conference bridge active on their user. Over here on the right, This is where they would change their own PIN number as well as a participant PIN number. They have here the option to have people joined as deafened or muted, as well as play entry and exit tones. When they're in an actual conference, they can come to this page, click on the plus icon to invite other Dash users to their conference. They can lock the conference so other people cannot join, mute everybody, unmute everybody. They can hang up, which means that ends the conference call. Also, while in a conference, each moderator and participant will have their own little box, which gives your moderators the opportunity, they can like mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person. The Settings and Devices tab, this is where your users can set up their own call forwarding. So they could do that on their VoIP phone if they know the feature code. I personally find this easier here is just come up here where it says Enable Call Forwarding, click on the box, enter the phone, +1 area code and phone number. No spaces, dashes, or parentheses of where I'm forwarding calls to, right? Probably my cell phone. All right, and then click on Save. Otherwise, you can see your existing devices. Likewise, when I want to turn off call forwarding, I just uncheck it and click Save. And then you're all set. And we'll go back to the dashboard. I haven't seen any questions, and I have definitely run long today, so I do apologize for that. Again, we do record these, so you can always come back and review the training, or you can review previous trainings if you want to. And feel free to make use of those links in the description to get to other Dash features that I was not able to show you properly here. We will not be training next week. However, beyond that, we'll be here every other Tuesday. So what is it? Today is the 2nd. So we will not be having a training on May 9th, but on May 16th and following Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, we'll be here. And then also on the 18th, we have that SMS webinar for compliance do's and don'ts. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.